Welcome to the VET S.O.S podcast. Remember, don't John to see a transition, grab the VET S.O.S lifeline. VET S.O.S is brought to you by the Who You Know Network, and we're proud members of the Parade Deck community. Today, we're sitting down with Katie Fallon, founder and executive director of Bridle. We're excited to learn about the great things that their organization is doing to help our community, and always love the chance to talk to people who are involved in the equine world. It's always just so amazing to learn what's going on and the amazing things we can do about that. And I know it's special for my partner Keith here today, who just admitted recently he had his first horseback riding experience. So we'll say getting saddle sore riding alongside here. Keith, how are you doing today?
Look at that play on words on the fly. Yeah, I'm doing well. And yeah, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't expect the core workout that I got. That's for daggone sure. But yeah, I went on a trail ride, absolutely loved it, and just was blown away by so many elements of the thing. But I'm sure we'll get to that end of the show. So I'm great, Sean. And how are you doing?
That is fantastic, and my back's starting to hurt just thinking about it. So, it's all good. All right, so we got Katie Fallon, founder and executive director of Bridle. She's worked in the field of equine-assisted services for more than 20 years. She is EAGALA Certified Equine Specialist, and she holds certifications from PATH International as a certified therapeutic riding instructor with advanced certification and an equine specialist in mental health and learning. Additionally, she serves on the faculty of the Herd Institute, facilitating practicum sessions for candidates seeking certifications in equine facilitated learning. Her current work with Bridle focuses on serving military and civilian populations with invisible challenges: ADHD, anxiety, depression, autism spectrum disorders, self-harm, suicidal ideations, brain injuries, post-traumatic stress, substance use disorders, and experiences of trauma. That is fascinating, Katie, and it also tells me how little I know about the equine world, because I had no idea all these things existed. How are you doing today, Katie?
I am good, thank you. I am here in my happy place with the horses, so it's all good.
That is awesome. Well, we are so happy to have you on the show here. The equine therapy thing to me is just amazing. What we're able to do with horses and just the connections and things like that. So anytime we get the opportunity to talk to someone doing this type of work, it's very exciting. And you were highly recommended by Gordon Sumner, alumni of the show, someone that we're proud to call a friend, and we love the work that he's done throughout his career. So just absolutely excited to have you on here. So tell us a little bit about your journey. How did you get to this point where you decided to start, helping the veteran community and other communities with this equine therapy and support stuff?
Yeah, well, it is. I will start by saying it is my absolute privilege to be here and to speak with you all today. Working with the military is one of the most incredible things I've been fortunate enough to do in my career. And we can talk a lot more about this, but we've experienced, and the horses know, you all are the realist. It makes sense to them when you all come out. So there's just nothing like it. I came to this in a pretty circuitous way. I know you often talk about transitions in on your podcast and with your own journey and that sort of thing. Where I am is not where I started. I probably, like a lot of people, I assumed that my path would be linear. My background is in international relations, and I worked in that field for many years. And I have 2 adult children. My son was born while I was working downtown, and I did the office job. I worked in foreign bank regulation. I wore the power suit because this was a minute ago, right?
Did you have the shoulder pads?
100%. It's a vibe. Yes. This was the late 80s and early 90s.
Nice.
Just dated myself there, but that's all right. I did all those things. And my son was born while I was working downtown, and I, did the daycare thing, and it was, so I thought I knew what my contract was and what this would look like. And then my daughter was born, and she was born almost 8 weeks early, and had had 4 brain surgeries by the time she was 4. So that was not on my list. That was like not on my bingo card. To have that happen, it was confusing. It was kind of disorienting, and it was humbling. So when she was born, not only did I have to address her immediate needs because she was quite medically fragile at the time, I had to reorient myself altogether and, talk about transitions, figure out who was I without the title, without the power suit with the shoulder pads, without the structure and the routine that life gave me. And it took a long time to figure this out. Partly because I'm a slow learner, I think, but so it was definitely had the character of this is not something that I would have raised my hand for. Yeah, sure, I'll have a child with special needs. I will change everything I'm doing and care for her. And it was challenging, as I say, because I didn't have a support system. I didn't have a community. All the folks who were staying at home, I didn't know them. It was like, okay, I guess we're going to music class now. I don't know. We'll play the tambourines and see how it goes. But it had the character. It's one of those things that I couldn't even have imagined the incredible benefits that came from this. As difficult as the transition was, and the only way around it was through it, really. What else are you going to do? There have been so many unexpected, wonderful things that have happened, including working in a field and in a way that aligns with my passion, my purpose, my values, and enables me to connect with folks like you all. With these, we have been serving our military community here for over 10 years, and it's an honor because people come to us as they are, and that's where we start. And so it's blossomed the longer I've spent time with this, and so now I can't imagine doing anything else. But that transition, and we talk about it a lot actually with the veterans who come through our programs. This notion of who am I without the uniform? Without the rank, without the camaraderie of the community, and how do you find that? What does it look like? Because it's different for everybody. And what are the commonalities? What are the bottom lines that we can connect around and take it forward?
I love your story. I mean, that is just a fantastic example of how, life throws different things at you and you have to, adjust and change and adapt and overcome. And I had to chuckle a little bit when you were talking initially about, the horse seeing and, the horse recognizing, especially working with the veterans and everything. And I'm what you would call a large mammal. And I would imagine the horse's look between Keith and I would be much different if they saw me approaching. Might be fear in his eyes. I don't know. It definitely have to be a big horse.
This horse that's in the picture here, I don't know if you can see, he won an award. He won the Klinger Award. He won the Klinger Award for honor and service for his work with veterans.
Nice.
He's a big kid.
Love
he
it.
stands, yeah. So there'd be no problem.
All right.
Yes.
So tell us about Bridle Pass. What is your organization?
Yeah, Bridle Pass is a nonprofit equine-assisted services program. Our mission is to offer strength, support, and healing to individuals and families, both civilian and military, through safe, effective, and high-quality equine-assisted services. Those services include adaptive riding, where we're teaching riding skills adapted to the needs of the rider, equine-assisted learning, where folks come and learn about themselves and their relationships in partnership with the horses, and equine-assisted psychotherapy, where I, as a certified equine specialist, partner with a licensed mental health professional, and we go deep. It's a psychotherapy session in this setting. And that's been the crux of the work that we're doing in the military space, the equine-assisted learning and equine-assisted psychotherapy. And you mentioned at the beginning, our focus, where we've really honed in, is on folks with invisible injuries, the people who other people look at and are like, what's the matter with you? You look fine, and you feel anything but fine. And there might be self-harm, there might be suicidal ideation, there might be suicidal actions, there might be traumatic brain injuries. And that's really the sweet spot for us in terms of where the horses and how the horses connect to people.
That's fantastic. Did you have this type of connection, Keith, when you got out there on the ride?
In ways I never expected, really. So first of all, just having this, because I'm no little guy myself, so I don't have the height that Sean has, but I have a little bit
picture?
Yeah, I don't have the height you have, but I'm no feather in a cap. But all that to say, first of all, it was the first 5. I'd never been on a horse in my life. It was a full-on trail ride for 4 hours, nonetheless.
Oh, wow.
First 15, 20 minutes, I'm in sheer terror, right? And, it was a trail ride that this horse has done 8 million times. It knew the route. All I had to do was hang on and not fall off and try to treat the horse. Hence I learned about the core workout, because, you ride with the horse, so the horse is more comfortable.
Yeah.
But the first time it went into a straight out run, like it wasn't trotting, it was a full on gallop. I remember just, the power between my legs. And then that was one thing, but then when it stopped, it took a big breath and my legs just went woo. And I was like, my God, like it honestly, it got me in touch with my higher power. That this magnificent creature that really was gentle as can be in so many ways, still you could sense it. There was a connection there. Yeah. And so, I was absolutely amazed. And something that the lady we were with, and I'd like you to maybe expand on this. Hopefully she wasn't blowing smoke up my ear. And she mentioned, like, it's like, we pulled up in my truck and went over to the horse. She's like, she basically told us, as soon as you got out of the truck, those horses sensed you. She's like, she said they could sense your heartbeat. They can sense your demeanor, like immediately from like up to 10 feet away or something like that. So I'm curious, with your experiences and all the certifications that you have, like, what can veterans expect, or what would you tell veterans that are like, this is psychobabble and blah, 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 all that kind of good stuff. Like, I've seen the impact. And so what would you share with them?
Yeah. 100%. And there are 2 aspects of this that you raised, Keith, that I'll touch on. One is the fact that, and we processed this from the very beginning, the first time our veteran group set foot here, we talk about the nature of the horse. We know generally that working with animals can be helpful. They're a lot less complicated than people for a bunch of reasons. But with horses, and we don't think about this because they're so large, but they are prey animals. So they are hardwired to seek safety and to be exquisitely attuned to their environment. So they're always aware. They're using their senses to assess their environments. That includes us when we step into that environment. And so it's challenging, because a lot of times folks come in with some do's and don'ts that they've been told about the horses. Like, and I'm thinking about the comment you made about the fear. They've been told, well, don't walk behind the horse, because there's this concern that they're looking to kick your lights out, right? They're not. They're looking to stay safe, and they can't see you there. They also can't see right in front of them and right under their noses. So if we're there, they're going to try to protect themselves in some way. And their first choice to do that is by moving. And often people come in and they've been told, well, I know you can't show fear around a horse. I don't know if you've ever heard that. So if you were to come in here, and again, I will process this up front. If you were to come into this space and I said, don't be afraid, it'll be fine, what happens?
You get more afraid.
Right. Why?
Because I'm stressed out about not being afraid, and I am.
Right. Because I've suggested there's something to be afraid of. And I've also
Yep.
said, hey, don't do that. So
Right.
there's physiological changes that happen. You're like, all right, crazy, whatever, right? Your heart rate might increase, your breathing might change, you might stiffen. And so for the horse that's using his senses to evaluate the environment, they're like, what's that about? So one of the most powerful things I think about the interactions with the horses is this literal, horses give us this unique opportunity to come as we are and be who we are, whatever that is. We don't have to be perfect. So whereas with people, it's easier, expected, or even required to say or do one thing and feel something else for any number of reasons. We don't want to anger them or disappoint them or upset them, whatever. With horses, it's pretty much the complete converse. We can let it be what it is. If you're feeling afraid, you do that. You let that be. If you're feeling angry, I've had clients in here raging, yelling, banging brushes on the wall, and the horse comes and stands with them because that's real. That makes sense. So it's a really powerful, visceral experience that people have. And it takes the time it takes because, talk is cheap. I can tell you any number of things, but until you have the experience, it doesn't matter much. And so especially the other piece of this, when you mentioned, the fear that you felt at the beginning, I think partly there's a lot of misunderstanding about the nature of horses and why they do what they do, so there's the sense that it's some sort of a black hole. Like, I don't know what's going to happen and maybe it'll be okay. Maybe it won't. Yeah. You're like guarded against that. But the other thing that's a very intentional process across the board, in whatever capacity people come and work with the horses, is this notion of nervous system regulation, this bottom-up process. Because there a lot of traditional psychotherapies are like cognitive behavioral therapy, for example. I know it's effective in a lot of circumstances, and I don't want to step outside my scope here because I don't have those letters after my name. However, CBT is a top-down approach. I'd love to reframe my thinking. I can't. I'm stuck in a rut. My thoughts are looping. They're whatever. With the horses, in the first instance, we want people to just come in and take a breath. Just be, whatever that is. And that makes sense to the horses because that's clear. There's no incongruity between what we're putting out there and what's going on inside. From that process, folks can start to bring the prefrontal cortex on board so that they are responding to things rather than reacting. Because especially if we've experienced trauma, and it's important, right? And the horses do the same thing, which is part of the relatability. You're going to get the hell out of Dodge. You're going to do what you need to do. And thank God you did, whatever it is. Whether you fought or you fled or you froze or you fawned, whatever that is, good on you for doing that. That's adaptive. And so a lot of the work here is, when are there circumstances where I can put that down and I can think of another way to do it? And that takes the time it takes, as I say. So, we'll often talk about that our amygdala and our limbic system is like the smoke detector. It's like, oh my God, this is reminiscent of something I've experienced, danger, Will Robinson, this kind of thing. We can, when we can sort of be and be present and grounded, we can bring things up to the prefrontal cortex, which we compare to the watchtower, which is kind of like, okay, some similar things, but different context. I think it's okay. So we can respond rather than react. Once we're in that place where we can respond rather than react, then we can learn. And then we can do. But if we approach it from the other end, and often veterans come in and they're like, well, we're ready to ride. And I'm like, I hear you. And not yet, because for some of the reasons you mentioned, if we start on the other end and say, it'll be fine, get on my 17-3 draft cross, it'll be fine. Chances are it will, because we know the horses really well and they're awesome, but your nervous system doesn't know that.
Yeah.
So it's hard to settle. So sometimes it's like watching paint dry. and I own that. But it's a very, very intentional, gradual process of building that sense of felt safety. So now,
Yeah.
actually, I was talking to a couple of guys yesterday who come out and they acknowledge, they said, we come out, we know that we need to come out when we're feeling the most dysregulated, when we're feeling the
Mm,
most down. That's when we show up because we feel better.
That's
And there's nothing better.
that is fascinating. I'm learning so much. I'm like taking notes over here. Um, before we get into like the specific programs and stuff that you do for military families and things like that, uh, is there a process or a training that the horses have to do? 'Cause I start thinking about the emotional support dogs and the
Mhm.
dogs that are trained to do certain things. Is there a time, because that can take 18 months to two
Right.
years to get them ready? Is there some sort of process that horses have to go through in order to, do some of the type of work you're doing, or is it just something that naturally they can do, and with the help of someone who's trained can sort of guide that effort?
Yeah, that's a fair point. I will say every horse here, we have 11 horses here, which, over the winter was about 11 too many. Um, so much work in the winter. But every horse here is here for a reason. So they come as a second or even a third career. So they may have been trained to jump or to race or to work with cows or what have you, lots of different things. Um, so they have had that training and they come here because they've been determined to be of limited value or relevance or importance in that previous career. Maybe they have physical limitations. Maybe um, a lot of them, we have a horse that freezes. We have a horse that, like, if horses could fawn, this horse fawns. It's like, just tell me what to do and I'll do it right now and I'll do it perfectly and it'll be fine. Oh my God. So I guess it's a two-part answer. For the adaptive riding, there are, horses are exposed to some unfamiliar things. We work with pool noodles or we, use toys and balls and things like that. So there is somewhat of a desensitization process. And, temperament is about 110% of the game when we're looking at a horse for this type of program. Um, and for, a certain degree of physical soundness, comfort to work under saddle no, we don't go very fast. Well, I shouldn't, no, I don't go very fast because I'm old and creaky. So there is some training in that respect, but actually, and it's an adjustment process for the horses too when they come here, especially if they've been in a highly structured competition type environment. For the psychotherapy work, we want them to be exactly who they are. And sometimes they're like, well, just tell me what to do and it'll be fine. And I'm like, no, you do you. And they're like, and so some of them are grumpy. Um, and that's relatable.
Yeah,
Like,
it's transitioning service member.
exactly. Oh my God, my personal horse he loves the veterans. And they're like, yeah, dude, I feel you. Over there is good, And at the same time, it becomes this really fascinating process of, because he's bracing, right? It's like, I'm probably going to hate this. So I'm going to give you the Heisman. Um, and so it becomes this fascinating, very subtle process of how do you get behind that? What does it take for him to put his guard down? And he will, but you can't go right at him. So that's the kind of work that we're facilitating, which can be challenging sometimes because if people come and they worked with horses in other contexts, I've had people come and say, why do you have that horse here? He's really grumpy. I'm like, I know, and he's perfect, just the way he is. He's a grumpy red unicorn. But it's a little bit of a different way of thinking about it because we're not doing to the horses, we're doing with the horses, and that's a huge part of the safety. If we can take their viewpoints into account, things become a lot more predictable and a lot safer because a horse that's running or kicking or biting is yelling in horse terms.
Yeah.
So we've missed something. I don't know if that answered your question.
Oh,
I got I'm from New Jersey. I take a lot of jug handles.
That's beautiful. I love it. I know we got a couple minutes left here. Let's jump real quick into the program specifically for the military families and everything. What programs are you running?
Yeah, so we've been fortunate to we're working our 4th VA adaptive sports grant to provide equine-assisted psychotherapy for veterans and service members specifically. So we've served well over 100 veterans in that capacity, and it's called Making the Connection. It's an 8-week program. And this year with the grant, we've built in some alumni programs. So vets who have come through the program can come back and revisit it and see where they are. We've broadened it to the vet centers. It's an 8-week program that is cumulative in nature, and it's focused on post-traumatic growth. And the notion that true healing happens, and we have a lot of veterans who come back and volunteer, and I think that's incredible, because true healing is feeling like you're in a place where you have something to give to somebody else. So this notion of, how do I maintain my boundaries? How do I communicate better? How do I, where do I belong? What fits for me? And that can shift over time, of course, like we started out talking about. How can I collaborate? And then what do I take forward? How do I operationalize this? And we're gathering data on this that's showing, as a result, a clinically significant reduction in post-traumatic stress, and improvement in psychological flexibility. So we offer that program to military families as well. That's not funded by the grant, so we do private fundraising for that. But we think that's critical, because nothing happens in a vacuum, and if one member of a family serves, everybody serves in their own way. And we've had veterans come through and say, my wife needs to come through because I've been telling her all these things and she's not getting it. We need to do our couples counseling here. I'm like, all right, we can look at that.
I'd sign me up.
Yeah. Yeah, my wife would jump in. I mean, the whole reason I got on a horse is because it was my wife's Valentine's Day gift. She's loved horses her whole life and everything. Nice. But yeah. Oh my gosh, we're almost at time, Katie, and this breaks my heart, because I could go on for. Because even just the science behind everything, I love the fact that you're actually you're quantifying and you're in tangifying your results, right? There's tangible results and outcomes of this, and you're even able to show that. And I can attest to anybody listening firsthand that it changes you. It really does. Like, my horse was the boss mare. So even from a veteran standpoint, we were in a line, she was in the middle, but like any of the horses behind us, if they tried to get around her, she's like, no. She was like, you ain't passing me. I'm in charge here. And it was just, as a veteran, I could appreciate that.
Right. Right.
It was just awesome. So yeah, I highly encourage anybody who's listening, if you get an opportunity to do this, like, so you're located in Leesburg, Virginia. So I guess, with that said, again, we have to start to wrap this up, which breaks my heart, but talk about your location. But, so one, how can people reach out to you? How can they find you and get in contact with you, either to partake in the services, to support what you're doing, and provide assistance? And then also, if they're not in the DC area, because that's essentially where Leesburg is, is what would you recommend, if they can get to where you're at, or find something similar where they're at?
Yep. So you can reach us. I see on the trailer there, our website is www.bridlepathsva.org. That's BRIDLE. Sometimes people spell it like the wedding, just to be clear. That'll take you somewhere else, probably. We're on LinkedIn. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. You can reach us through all of those means. We serve a very wide area: Maryland, West Virginia, DC. If you're not in the local area, I would suggest looking at some of the national organizations to find programs of this nature. So, for example, equine-assisted psychotherapy programs, you can look on the EAGALA website. That's EAGALA.org. You can locate centers all over the world, actually. And then for the riding piece, if folks are interested in that, there's Path International, which is PATHINTL.org. for equine assisted services in that realm.
Nice.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Katie. This
My
has been an
pleasure.
amazing episode.
So appreciate you both. Thank you for having me.
Oh yeah. No, I enjoyed this one. But admittedly, however long ago Valentine's Day was, if we aired this episode, recorded this episode prior to that, I wouldn't have been nearly as in tune, but I'm a believer now. So
Next time I run into Keith, he's going to have a big old buckle and boots
There we
on and a
go.
cowboy hat.
It's going to have the whole aura. Yes.
yeah, no, just it really did. It was amazing, an amazing experience. And mine wasn't even like based on therapy. It was just a trail ride kind of thing, and it still had that effect on me. So what you are doing is absolutely amazing for our military community, and I can't thank you enough for what you're doing. So yeah, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been great having you. And on behalf of the entire VET S.O.S family, we'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. VET S.O.S is growing and expanding. You can follow us on all of your social media platforms that you like to go to. Make sure to check out all 3 of our shows and follow and subscribe to us wherever you get your podcast from. We're on YouTube, Reese Across America, Parade Deck, you name it, we're on it. And as always, folks, remember, don't drown in the sea of transition. Grab the VET S.O.S Lifeline.